Hi, my name is Chuckie Thomas, and I am the ADHD Screenwriter. And in this video, I'm going to tell you 5 tips on starting your script. Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Chuckie Thomas, and I am the ADHD Screenwriter because I'm a screenwriter and I've got ADHD, among other things. Sometimes starting your script is the hardest part of the whole process, right? Sitting down, writing that first word, you get that white page something on it so you don't go insane. Trying to figure out where the first plot point comes in. It can be a little overwhelming. So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on just starting your script and overcome that whole white page, oh no, what do I do? Never again will you fall prey to that. But before we get started, please like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And of course, comment below on your struggles with starting your script. All right, on to number 1. Now, if you've been writing for any time, you may have heard this piece of advice. Just write down everything about your character. Go back in their life and tell us what they used to have for breakfast, what kind of cereal they enjoyed, or what happened on their 3rd birthday, or maybe at Thanksgiving, and blah, 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 that kind of thing. And you're like, how does that help at all? I think a little of that is a little, what do the kids say, extra. But there is something there. So when I was going to Kennesaw State University and getting my master's, one of the things I learned there was to write full bios of the main, especially the main character, but any of the characters that you really have a full arc, right? So this wasn't breakfast cereal. This was what were their parents like? Because that is a huge deal for any character. Parents reacting to them, whatever, it's a huge deal. How did they get to the point of the movie? Before the movie started, what were they doing? And then tell the plot of the movie and how it affects that character. And then they had us write past that, like past the movie. Where did they go after that? You know, where did they end up? And I tell you, I had never really done this before. My script that I wrote there, it was called 8-Bit Bloodsport. Stick each other's hearts.
Are you a spy from the Berserkers?
And it's basically a video game version of Bloodsport. Very funny and kind of silly, but I really liked it. And the reason I liked it, because there was so much character work in that script because we did these bios. I'm telling you, I didn't know so much about this character's past until I started writing it down and went, this person's really interesting. So I did it for more characters, and lo and behold, that script is, I'll be honest, not tooting my own horn that much, but it's just a really solid piece of work, and it feels great. So that's my advice for tip number 1. Write the bios of your characters. Make it really important stuff. It doesn't have to be breakfast cereal, but really formative stuff in the person's life and after the movie. And I promise you're going to see a whole range of stuff that you didn't see before. I had a creative writing professor in undergrad. I was at Georgia Southern University named Peter Christopher. Rest in peace. He has since passed on. Peter Christopher was an interesting man. He and I didn't quite get along when I was in his class because, well, I have something wrong with me. And every time he would try to give me any advice, I would say, I don't think so, old man. You don't know what you're talking about. One of his big philosophies was, when you're writing, you're a writer. When you're not writing, you're a person who wants to be writing, right? So at that moment, when you're not writing, you're not a writer. And it's just his view of writing was the only time you're actually doing it is when you're doing it. Otherwise, you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. Do I agree with this? Not at all. I thought it was ridiculous. However, when it comes to starting something, he has a point. If you're just sitting there staring at this blank white page, you're not actually writing. Now, my tip here is, and it's going to sound kind of dumb, is to just start writing. Doesn't it sound ridiculous? And that was also his viewpoint too. But guess what? That gets your brain moving. And that gets my brain moving. I can outline all I want, but as soon as I actually start writing in Final Draft or something, I mean, that's when my brain really comes alive. And I think, oh, I could do this and this and this and this. Just start writing sounds like the goofiest thing possible. And it doesn't have to be good, and that's the point. It's just words. Literally, maybe just start off with like a grocery list or something, whatever's in your head. The point is for your fingers to start moving and your brain to start working. Now, hopefully this is going to lead to something good, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you just have nonsense on the page. But the point is that you tried and you do it the next day, and hopefully something sticks, and then you have a story that you can run off to outer space with. But that won't happen unless you start moving. So just, again, it's silly, but just start writing. As a screenplay reader for the Atlanta Film Festival, I've noticed a few things that also relate to watching movies for the Atlanta Film Festival. The pre-screening, I got to watch all the movies as they came in. There's this thing where you start watching a movie or you start reading a script and you go, this person is really centered on getting this theme across. It's just, maybe you've watched something and you thought, that was a little preachy. I like the movie, but it was just shouting its theme at me over and over. And that's usually because the writer just thought, this is the most important thing in the world. This theme is going to change everything. If I tell this story the right way, everybody's going to love it. And I get it. I've done it myself. You know, people with ADHD have this stronger sense of purpose where we just feel like everything we do is a big deal, even if it's like going to the grocery store or whatever. So I get writing a script is you're already pouring yourself into this thing. So you want people to understand the deep part of yourself. I guarantee this is going to ruin your film, either the writing or if you get lucky enough to film the thing. We can tell. The tip is concentrate on character first, because people want strong characters to identify with. That's just, they don't know it, but that's what they're looking for when they go see a movie. They want somebody to identify with in some way, the human experience. So character first, then plot. You can have the best plot in the world, but if the characters are super dumb and they don't know what they're doing, they're running around, it's not going to feel real to people. Concentrate on character, then plot. Theme is great, and that's something to go back into editing with, and we're going to talk about editing at some point, which is not something I like to do. Maybe you don't either. But theme is third at best. Character first. I have this tendency to just blast through like page 26, page 30, whatever it is of a new script, because I am extremely excited about whatever story that I just thought of. Typically, I've just been thinking about it for several days, maybe weeks, maybe months. So by the time I sit down, I am ready to go. So I want to write as much as I can because, and this is the tip, there is momentum. And I can't stress enough how important momentum is for writing a script, for making a movie, anything. I've talked to so many people over the years on my podcast, Atlanta Film Chat, or just in person or whatever. There's just something about like putting it in the air, like let's go. So when you feel excited about a story, I know it's easy to double think about this kind of thing and get in your head and think, oh man, it's all right. This is kind of similar to this, that, and the other, whatever. Feeling that excitement and getting something off the ground, you absolutely have to use that. Use that to get through as much of the script as possible. Maybe it's only the first 10 pages or whatever, but all of a sudden you've got 10 pages and you think, well, this is about a 90 to 100 page script. So man, I'm like 10% of the way there. So you can use that adrenaline that you got from writing those 10 pages to get through the rest of it. Sometimes it just becomes work. Maybe the first 40 pages was easy, but then page 41, you think, uh-oh, I got to start walking through mud here. If you don't have that initial boost of energy, and I've done this, I've had stories that I started to write, like I know in the back of my head, nope, I don't have that boost. It's not there. This isn't working. So like halfway through, just drop it because it didn't work. I also get that adrenaline at the end. You see like the finish line, you're running towards it. It's very exciting. So my tip is use your momentum and your excitement for your story. Get through as much of it as possible because you'll need it through the rest of the writing. When I first started writing, I had no interest in outlining. Why? My hero Stephen King didn't do it. Therefore, I didn't need to do it. He could just write a story, an entire novel just from his brain right off the bat. Therefore, I can do it. Because why not? And honestly, for a minute, it kind of worked. I wrote a few stories that got some attention, a few scripts, won a couple of awards. But then one day, it just didn't. My wife doesn't like me to tell this story, but it's very true. She swears it's not, but it's true. She reads all my stuff first. And one day I turned a script over to her and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And she said, No, this is bad. This is very, very bad. The thing is, I went back and I read it and I realized she was right and it was time to outline. It was just garbage, nonsense. So it was time to learn how to outline. I had never really done it and it took me a while. But in the end, I definitely got there and now I'm definitely on the side of outlining. It really helps you focus on the important, huge story beats, right? You don't necessarily have to go out of your way and do like a Save the Cat, which you've probably heard of if you're a screenwriter at all, maybe you've started, whatever. Save the Cat's the big one where everybody reads that and wants to outline like that. That's really for mainly studio pictures, and that's what that book was for. It's to outline, like a Marvel movie or whatever. Maybe you're writing an independent movie and it doesn't exactly work for you. So here actually are a few other books that maybe you could check out to start your outlining journey. Now, do I recommend it for everybody? Yes. Does that mean you're going to try it? No, and I get why. However, I recommend at least trying it because I think it's going to help you with your writing, and especially when you get to those points where, and this happens, you're thinking, I really don't know what to do next. Maybe I should have plotted this out. You know what's in the back of your head. Just try it, and you might find some great results. And that's it. Those are 5 tips on starting your script. Do you have any tips for us on how you start your own scripts or stories? Or maybe you're working on something and you need some help on how to start a story. Comment below. Maybe we'll all help you because we like to be positive here. And also, of course, like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff because there's a lot of great videos coming, including way more tips on finishing a script and even pitching. And lastly, as always, if you have ADHD or maybe some other neurological disorder and you're using this video to disassociate, not write, go write your script, come back, and then watch the rest of the videos. See you next time.